Welcome to GED Live at PALS to another GED Science screencast. Today's topic is important concepts in science that you should know about. This is the second part. And if you find these videos helpful, please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel. This helps us to reach more students or people like you who want to pass their GED tests. Let's go right in here. The first bit we will in this presentation have a look at the different body systems of the human body and their function, and we will talk about the concept of homeostasis. So the human body is a quite important bit of the life science chunk for the GED science test, so we definitely should have an idea about the different body systems and organ systems that we find in our body. We will have a look at 9 major organ systems that carry out work interactively to maintain life, to carry out the functions of life in our body. Actually, I think I left out the urinary system, so it's just 8 in this presentation. And let's start with the first few body systems. So the integumentary system is an organ system consisting of the skin, hair, nails, and some exocrine glands, like sweat glands, for example. The function of the integumentary system is mainly a barrier function to protect us from physical damage or from harmful organisms, from pathogens, and the integumentary system does that through having tough skin cells and the protein keratin, which is really tough and strong. Our nails are made of keratin, our hair is made of keratin, and our skin is quite leathery and tough, which protects us from physical harm. The underlying organs are protected. We have a fatty tissue layer that protects us from physical shocks. Plus, our skin is mildly acidic in nature and has special immune cells that protect us from organisms, from infections, from pathogens. Something else that the skin is very important for is thermoregulation. We will get back to that in homeostasis later. Thermoregulation is the maintenance of a constant body temperature, and it does that by having layers of adipose tissue, fat tissue, that insulates us against cooler temperature, which prevents too much heat loss. Plus, if our body should get too hot, we have a lot of sweat glands that produce sweat for cooling by evaporation. The next system is the human skeletal system, which consists of all the bones, cartilage, tendons, ligaments, and joints in the body. Our skeletal system gives us support and allows locomotion together with a muscular system. Bones give support and facilitate movement by serving as points of attachment for your muscles. Plus we have, as we mentioned earlier, joints as well, which allow for more flexible movement as well. Protection. Bones protect many of our important internal organs. For example, the rib cage protects our lungs and the heart. Our skull protects the brain. Our backbone protects our spinal cord. Bones are important for fat storage and blood cell formation. In the interior of most bones, we have the bone marrow tissue, which is a live tissue. There are different types of bone marrow. Yellow bone marrow contains mainly fat tissue, adipose tissue, which is an energy storage, and the red bone marrow is where the production of red blood cells, white blood cells, and the platelets takes place. So very, very important function here, producing millions or billions of red blood cells every day, our bones, to replace the ones that have died. Our bones as well serve as a mineral storage, mainly for calcium. So the bone tissue acts as a reservoir for a number of different minerals, again mainly calcium and phosphorus as well. So if blood calcium levels are too low, our body will release some of the calcium from the bones to bring it back up to a normal level. Then there is the muscular system. Muscular system again works together with the skeletal system and consists of skeletal, smooth and cardiac muscles. So there are 3 different types of muscles. It allows locomotion by contraction and relaxation of the skeletal muscles being attached to our bones. Our muscles give us stability, specifically tendons and muscles that stretch over joints, or our core muscles like the abdominal muscles that give stability to our body, again working together with the skeletal system here. It plays an important part in, together with the circulatory system as well. The heart is mainly a muscle made of cardiac muscle, which pumps the blood through the body, and smooth muscles in the arteries and veins control the blood pressure, or smooth muscles in our digestive system and in our intestine move the food in the right direction, and so on. As well, thermoregulation, maintaining constant temperature, very important here. Almost 85% of the heat our body generates comes from contracting muscles and our muscle action. When we get too cold, we start to shiver. This is muscles rapidly contracting, producing a lot of heat. Then we have the nervous system, which is a collection of nerves and specialized cells which are known as neurons. It has 2 major components: the central nervous system, which is our brain and the spinal cord, and then the peripheral nervous system, which are all the nerves that basically leave the spinal cord and distribute throughout all our body, connecting all parts of our body, mainly muscles and glands, to the nervous system. Functionally, the nervous system has 2 main subdivisions. We have the somatic component, which is the voluntary component. The somatic system consists of nerves that connect the brain and spinal cord with the muscles, mainly with the skeletal muscles, and sensory receptors in our skin and eyes and so on. So this has all to do with our senses being able to interact with our environment, and as well allowing us to control the movements of our body. Anything that you voluntarily control, the somatic system. Then we have the autonomic system, the involuntary components. The autonomic nervous system regulates certain body processes such as blood pressure or rate of breathing, the heart rate, and so on. So all the things that are not under conscious control, but that run in the background. And the major function of our nervous system is obviously control or coordination, control and response. Okay, next one, the endocrine system is a chemical messenger system of several endocrine glands. In humans, the major endocrine glands are the thyroid gland and the adrenal gland. There are a couple of more, which we'll see in a minute. Again, here, important functions are regulation and control. These glands produce and secrete hormones, and hormones are chemical substances that affect the activity of specific target organs. In essence, hormones serve as messengers controlling and coordinating activities throughout the body. The circulatory system or cardiovascular system is a network. Let's quickly actually have a look here at the different glands in our body. So here we can see the adrenal gland, which produces adrenaline. Adrenaline has an effect on almost all the organs in our body. And here we have the thyroid gland. Other glands are the pituitary gland, hypothalamus in our brain. The parathyroid glands, our pancreas produces the insulin and glucagon, which is important for our blood sugar regulation and affects the liver and our muscles. Then we have the ovaries and testes, which produce the sexual hormones. Then let's move on to the circulatory system or the cardiovascular system, which is a network consisting of blood vessels, and obviously our heart. Its function is to make the blood circulate around our body and transport important substances all around our body to the places where they are needed. These substances could be nutrients like amino acids or electrolytes, oxygen obviously by red blood cells, carbon dioxide out of our body, so not only two different parts of our body, but as well transporting waste products away and allowing them to be either filtered out or excreted directly. They transport hormones from where they are made to where they are needed, and obviously the blood cells and the solid parts that are part of the blood. We have the white blood cells, which are part of our blood, which help in fighting disease, part of our immune system. The blood helps with maintaining our constant body temperature and pH around our body, and helps thus maintaining homeostasis. Blood vessels and their functions. The arteries carry blood away from the heart to various organs of the body. Veins, they collect the blood from the organs and bring it back to the heart. And the capillaries are the tiny blood vessels which form vast networks reaching almost every cell in our body, which in return allow the exchange of materials between the blood and the surrounding tissues. The respiratory system is a network of organs and tissues that help you breathe. It includes your trachea, the bronchi, the lungs, the bronchioles and alveoli, and blood vessels that take in oxygen and give away carbon dioxide to the lungs or alveoli. It has many functions besides the main function, the gas exchange, taking out carbon dioxide out of the body and taking in the oxygen. Besides that, it allows you to speak and talk together with the larynx, the voice box, and it delivers oxygen to the blood, which will circulate throughout our body, removes carbon dioxide from the body when we exhale, and it protects our airways from harmful substances and irritants with special cells that not only prevent substances entering our lungs, but as well transporting them out again. The human digestive system, another very important organ system, consists of the gastrointestinal tract plus the accessory organs. The GI tract is the part that the food basically takes its journey through our body, starting at the mouth, through the esophagus, and landing in the stomach, where digestion really starts, going through the small intestine, large intestine, and then leaving our body again, the leftovers, through the anus. The accessory organs are organs that help with digestion of the food. Accessory organs are the tongue, the salivary glands, the liver, the pancreas, and the gallbladder. So digestion itself, obviously that's the function of the digestive system, so we can have a closer look at what that exactly means. Digestion is the breakdown of food into smaller components, and this can be done in two ways. We have mechanical digestion, which is the mechanical breakdown of food into smaller pieces without any chemical change happening to the food molecules. It's just making smaller pieces. Obviously, that starts in our mouth. When we chew, we break down the food into a lot smaller pieces, but it doesn't end in the mouth. It continues in the stomach. Our stomach is a very strong muscle. It churns, it contracts and relaxes and mixes the food and produces a substance which is called chyme. It's the tiny food particles now broken down into really small pieces, mixed with the gastric juice. Then we have chemical digestion, which is the breakdown of large food molecules into smaller food molecules by the action of digestive enzymes. This happens already in the mouth with the amylase in our saliva, breaking down starch, continues in the stomach, and most of the chemical digestion will happen in our small intestines. Now, for sure these two have to work together. If mechanical digestion is somehow hindered, then chemical digestion will be affected. Mechanical digestion is really important because the smaller the pieces are, the larger the surface area is, and that means there is a larger surface area for digestive enzymes to actually break down the food. Once all the food molecules are broken down into the smallest pieces, which are all soluble, that's the importance of chemical digestion, to change our food into soluble molecules that can dissolve in our blood plasma. After that is complete absorption happens, which is the taking in of these small food molecules into the blood for the distribution and assimilation around the body. Okay, these are the important organ systems. Let's talk about homeostasis. So homeostasis goes hand in hand with our organ systems. Our organ systems always try to, many of them are involved in maintaining homeostasis. So what does this term actually mean? Homeostasis is really important to understand for the GED science test. This is why we talk about it here. And yeah, let's start with a definition. Homeostasis is the tendency of an organism or cell to maintain a constant internal environment within tolerance limits. These stable conditions are opposed to our external environment that is obviously changing very often. When we are outside, temperatures are changing. Sometimes it's hot, sometimes it's cold, and yeah, many other examples where our external environment is always very different, and our body has to deal with that and actually maintain everything in stability in the internal environment. Now, for sure, this doesn't have to be like an exact value, but we have often very narrow tolerance limits here, or frames, ranges. So homeostasis literally means staying similar. So our body tries to keep everything similar inside of it. Internal equilibrium is maintained by adjusting physiological processes, and these include our body temperature is regulated, and the tolerance limits here are 36 and 38 degrees Celsius. So anything below or above is usually outside the tolerance limit and not good. If our body temperature drops too low to 35, 34 degrees Celsius, that is very, very, very dangerous. It can lead to coma and death. And same with too high temperatures. 40, 41, 42 degrees Celsius up is becoming very dangerous. Our blood pH is between 7.35 and 7.45, which has to be maintained. The carbon dioxide concentration is very important because it directly affects the blood pH. So carbon dioxide and blood pH are very connected. Our blood glucose concentration, the sugar in our blood, has to be managed very well too. Too much sugar will cause very high blood pressure because water is drawn into the blood. Too less sugar means our vital organs will not be supplied with enough energy. So especially our brain might be affected by too low glucose concentrations, and as well the water balance, the amount of water in our blood, which varies with individual body size. And here blood glucose level and water balance are very closely interlinked as well. Now, how does our body maintain homeostasis? How does our body keep things in balance and equilibrium? It does that with so-called negative feedback mechanisms. Negative feedback, not in the way that we use it. It doesn't mean what we might understand here. Negative feedback here means an opposite response. Negative in terms of opposite, and feedback in terms of response. So most homeostatic control mechanisms operate through negative feedback loops. when specialized receptors detect a change in internal conditions, again like body temperature, temperature receptors in our brain, or pH receptors, or carbon dioxide concentration receptors. If changes are detected which go away from the set point, which go away from the optimum, the response generated will be the opposite of the change that occurred. When levels have returned to equilibrium, the effector ceases to generate a response, so it stays in balance, and if levels should go too far in the opposite direction, then an opposite and antagonistic pathway will be activated that does the opposite. So in the end, negative feedback always leads the system back to balance. You can see this illustrated below. We have a seesaw representing homeostasis, something that is in balance. If it gets into imbalance because of a stimulus pushing this over to this side, the change is detected in our body by a receptor. It's communicated to our brain basically. We have an output which is sent to an effector, and the effector will respond in a way so that the homeostasis is returned, or that the system is returned to balance. And this can happen in both directions. If the homeostasis is tipped in the other direction, then our body has a pathway that will return it to balance again as well. And this is meant by negative feedback. Once something is tipped in the wrong direction, the negative feedback will tip it back in the opposite direction. We can see a graph here on the right side as well. This could be, for example, body temperature. The green line represents the set point, the perfect body temperature. And if we get too hot during exercise, for example, our body will respond by starting to sweat. The sweat will cause the negative feedback, because sweat cools us down. The sweat evaporates, which causes cooling. The blood flow close to our skin is increased. This is why you often get a red face or red head when you exercise. So a lot of blood close to the surface, plus sweating and evaporation of sweat cools the blood down. The blood goes back into your body, cooling you down. So we have an increase of temperature, which is the detected change, the stimulus. Our body will the temperature receptors detect that it's getting hotter. This is communicated to the brain. The brain will then cause sweat glands to produce sweat. Sweat evaporates and this cools us down, and we return back to our normal body temperature. In case our body temperature goes too low, if it gets really cold, our body will try to fix that as well. How can it do that? It limits the blood flow close to the skin. This can give you blue lips, for example, very white fingers and cold fingers or ears, because the blood flow to these unimportant parts of the body is now limited. There's not much blood in our extremities. There's not much blood close to the surface of the skin to increase the insulation, to avoid more heat loss from the blood, to keep our internal organs warm. Plus we might start to shivering. Again, these are uncontrolled muscle contractions. We learned earlier that muscles, when they move, they produce a lot of heat, and the combination of both warms our body up again, and we return back to the optimum body temperature. Okay, this is it for important concepts in science, the second part. I hope I could help you to understand these topics a bit more. Again, especially homeostasis, a very important concept to understand. If you still want to learn more about body systems and homeostasis, there are full lessons on our YouTube channel, so you can check out these. If you found this video helpful, again, one more time, please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel. I hope to see you in part 3 for important concepts to know for the GED science test.